It's good to have you with us at this hour. I'm Daniel Choy. Let's start with our first story. Korea felt the effects of the Typhoon Chan-Hom today as strong winds felled trees and traffic lights in some areas. Jeollanam-do province saw winds of up to 30 meters per second. The storm dumped more than 145 millimeters of rain on Jeju Island from late Saturday until early Sunday, and more than 59 flights linking the capital with Yeosu and Jeju were canceled due to strong winds. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, Chan-Hom will reach North Korea by midnight but should fade away at dawn before reaching the south. Earlier this weekend, that typhoon made landfall in China with powerful winds and about a month's worth of rainfall in less than 24 hours. The Associated Press reported about 1.1 million people were evacuated from China's coast. Almost 30,000 ships were called back to port. More than 750 flights were canceled. No casualties have been reported, fortunately. The Korean government has organized a task force with the United States to investigate a U.S. military lab's erroneous shipment of live anthrax to a U.S. base in Korea back in April. Korea's foreign ministry said Sunday the task force formed under the joint Seoul-Washington Committee on the Status of Forces Agreement will review the incident and work to prevent a reoccurrence. The two countries will hold separate committee meetings on Wednesday to discuss the erroneous shipment, review how the countries responded to the incident, and outline priorities for the task force. The Status of Forces Agreement, or SOFA, governs the legal status of some 28,500 U.S. troops stationed in Korea since the Korean War, which ended in an armistice back in 1953. A newly released document proves Japan forced Koreans into slave labor at a controversial World War II site that recently gained UNESCO World Heritage recognition. Kim Moon-gil, an honorary professor of Busan University of Foreign Studies, helped Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency obtain the 3-page document from an undisclosed Japanese museum. The document was written by the Yamano coal mine and calls for the construction of a barbed wire fence on a wall surrounding a dormitory for Korean workers to prevent them from climbing over it or escaping. The mine, located near Fukuoka, was operated by Mitsubishi. Kim, an expert who leads a research institute on Korean and Japanese culture, says the document proves Koreans were indeed forced into labor while practically being kept in a state of detention. The window for Greece to reach a deal with its creditors and keep the country from bankruptcy is about to close. Eurozone finance ministers have gathered once again for talks on Athens' third bailout proposal, but given the difficulty of the negotiations, the ministers are split on whether an agreement will be reached on Sunday or not. Our Kwon So-hwa reports.
It's a busy weekend for Eurozone finance ministers who are putting their heads together in Brussels to try and find a workable solution for crisis-hit Greece. Their marathon negotiations went into overtime without an agreement on Saturday, but are continuing Sunday, leading to the abrupt cancellation of a summit of all EU members slated for the same day. So far, the ministers, including Finland, which has been skeptical about Greece's proposal for an €80 billion bailout, seem to be keeping an open mind.
No one is blocking a deal. We're all constructively trying to find a solution in a very difficult situation. What we are saying is that the conditionality that has been presented by the Greeks is simply not enough.
However, they also seem divided on whether the meeting will bear fruit.
It is our hope that at the end of the day, we have a good agreement that maintains the integrity of the euro.
No, it's really, it's not possible to reach deal today. Okay, we can rag on certain recommendations for the head of state, that's all.
Many Eurozone members have expressed a lack in trust in Athens, with Germany even suggesting a temporary Grexit of 5 years. The latest reform plan put forward by Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras on Friday includes tax hikes, raising the retirement age, and cutting defense spending. Although the Greek parliament backed the new proposals, many Greeks are demonstrating against it.
It keeps all the tax burdens, unbearable burdens that existed before, which are harmful to the economy and the society, and it adds even more.
Time is running out for Greece as the crisis takes a toll on its people. Banks have been shuttered for 2 weeks now, and the country is just a week ahead of another crucial deadline to repay the European Central Bank. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
A Greek exit from the Eurozone is, of course, not out of the equation, and it could have an impact on Korea, namely on exports. But the effect is fortunately likely to be limited. According to the Korea International Trade Association, or KITA, a Grexit could drag down exports to Europe by 5.8%, with the biggest losers expected to be in shipbuilding, automobiles, displays, and mobile devices. The fall will be due to the Eurozone's economic growth dipping 1 percentage point and the Korean won adding 13.6% against the euro as a result of Grexit. The EU took up 9% of Korea's exports in 2014. Greece only accounted for 0.2%. Kita assured the consequences of a Grexit will not be as serious as the 2010 Eurozone crisis, as the current damage will be limited by the European Central Bank's stimulus efforts that began back in March. Back here in Korea, Sunday marks the 7th consecutive day without a new case of MERS. Plus, 2 patients are reported to have fully recovered in addition to the 130 of 186 people diagnosed with the disease who have also made full recoveries. In general, the widespread fear about the disease seems to be winding down as people venture out to public places. Movie ticket sales rose to 2.29 million in the first weekend of July. That's up from 1.22 the month before, according to the Korean Film Council. Everland, a popular theme park, said attendance was up by 130% in the first week of July from the previous month. The Korea Baseball Organization said more than 9,800 people filled stadiums in the week ending July 5th, a dramatic climb from roughly 8,200 in the first week of June. Korea's cigarette tax revenue jumped drastically in the first half of the year from 2014 thanks to a new tax policy that began this year. According to Finance Ministry data on Sunday, the government has raked in $3.8 billion in the first half of the year from cigarette sales, jumping 36% from a year earlier. The increase is significant as cigarette sales dropped a little over 28% in the same period. In January, the government upped cigarette prices by roughly $2 a pack by adding a special excise tax and other indirect taxes to encourage smokers to quit. That month, cigarette tax revenue rose only a little over $35 million from the year before, but continued rising, spiking 8 times that in June. Industry watchers attribute the rise to smokers who quit in January, but failed to follow through with their New Year's resolutions. North Korea has offered to send a jet to former South Korean First Lady Lee Hee-ho for her scheduled visit in early August. But as our Kim Hyun-bin reports, there are still concerns about whether the trip will go forward, especially given Pyongyang's recent decision to send troops across the border on Saturday.
The Kim Dae-jung Convention Center said Sunday that the order to escort Lee, who was 93, was given by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The center said the regime made the offer to escort Lee, the widow of former President Kim Dae-jung, when they met last Monday at the Kaesong Industrial Complex, both because she is a VIP and in consideration of her age. Lee's 4-day trip is slated for August 5th to 8th. The center added, however, that nothing has been said. Last Wednesday, North Korea's Asia-Pacific Peace Committee, which is involved in talks for Lee's visit, threatened to cancel the trip. It said the South Korean media is launching provocations by saying that Pyongyang is politicizing Lee's trip. The North also claimed the South said that Pyongyang suggested the use of an airplane to promote its new airport terminal. Seoul later expressed its regret over the North's statement, saying that it will provide the necessary support for Lee's envisioned trip. Meanwhile, North Korea has sent 10 armed soldiers over the military demarcation line near Cheolwon, Gangwon-do province. An army official told Seoul-based Jeollanam News on Sunday the armed group crossed on Saturday but retreated immediately after the South fired warning shots. This is the first time this year the South has fired warning shots at North Korean soldiers. Army sources say they are looking into the motive behind Pyongyang's increased activities on the border. but said the military is ready for any provocation or attack by the regime. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Let's shift gears now. Scientists around the world are always trying to find new, efficient sources of renewable energy. A local team of Koreans is working on one promising option, a floating power generator that converts the natural motion of the sea into electric energy. Our Won Ji-hyun tells us more.
Notice the small object floating inside the pool and how it responds to movement in the water. It lights up when it comes into contact with the waves. What you're seeing here is actually the top portion of a new wave energy converter that's being developed by researchers from Yonsei University. They say it's a type of oscillating water column that uses moving water as a piston in a cylinder. The device has three main components: a lid, a tube, and a power takeoff module that's placed between them. The lid is open at the bottom, so when the waves hit the device, water goes in and out of the tube, pushing the air trapped inside back and forth. The air then passes through the power takeoff module, which spins the turbine that generates electricity.
We made the machine vertical so it can operate, even when its body is submerged in water. We're now testing miniature models to increase the efficiency of the turbine system.
Since the device can both float and operate underwater, scientists say it can be used at deep sea levels, whereas conventional models are generally installed near the shoreline. Though the researchers still have a long way to go, they see a great potential for the device to collect much more energy from the powerful waves out at sea. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
And now the weather. Korea is experiencing heavy downpours nationwide due to the impact of Typhoon Chan-Hom, and the showers will continue through Monday. Jeju Island's Witseorum has received the greatest amount of rain so far this Sunday at around 1,300 millimeters. Temperature-wise, Seoul will start the day at 24 degrees Celsius. Busan will be a little lower at 23 and Jeju at 24 on Monday. And it's time now to check out the weather conditions outside of Korea, around the world. And we've come to the end of our newscast. Thank you so much for watching. Do have a great start to your new week.